I would definitely say our group is the hardest one.
My next goal is to win the spring split, and I really will give it my all to achieve that goal.
It's definitely going to be harder this year, but I still think we can manage to be the top contender in EU.
Last season we went to the final, and I think that we can do that again for sure. I took a break, and now it is really good to be back in LCS, and I'm gonna give it all, that's for sure.
I think that we just kind of screwed up our roles, and I think we can do a lot better than that.
With this team, we can go to playoffs and even more.
I know if we fix our problems and we will try our best, I think we can be the best team because we have the skill to do so.
Guten Abend, Berlin, and welcome to the party, everyone. It's day 3 of the 2017 EU LCS Spring Split, and we are coming in with a bang, looking at a new look ROCCAT as they take on last split's champions G2, and a determined Splice as they take on the European Heroes of Worlds H2K. Hello everyone, I'm Eve Supporter, joined here at the analyst desk by Mitch Kreppel-Voorspools and Daniel Tsifa. No, I did it! Daniel Dracos. We're never going to say it again.
Daniel Dracos.
Daniel Dracos.
Fine, just do whatever's easiest for you, you know? I don't want to make this too difficult.
No, this isn't difficult at all. I don't know why we're making it difficult. Well, let's take a look at the games. After 2 days of competition, here is how the teams stand, and they are ranked by their series wins. G2 has one of those, as well as H2K, the Unicorns of Love, Misfits, and Fnatic, Origin, Vitality, and Giants have already played and lost their series, but today we're going to see ROCCAT and Splice take to the stage.
Yeah, we'll finally see ROCCAT and Splice take to the stage. Interesting for ROCCAT, they're in a rebuilding phase right now, as opposed to Splice. They've kind of gone through that entire process last year, so they're looking to refine, optimize, and they should be looking strong.
Yep, and for the rest of the standings, they look kind of the way we expected, at least for a week 1. But I do want to dial in on something next to the results, which is the Unicorns of Love's draft style yesterday in the new 10-ban system, because they broke the mold.
I'll be honest, me and Official were really nervous for the Unicorns when we saw Malzahar and Rengar go through on the side of Vitality. But, I mean, it worked out for them. They had a perfect comp built around it. They played to their win conditions incredibly well, and they proved that there is things you can do against these very powerful picks in the current meta.
Still risky, but they pulled it off.
Yeah, and I do think it highlights that we're only just scratching the surface of this pick and ban meta game, especially with the 10 bans. There is this preconceived notion that all the OPs should be banned, and if one is left open, it means a guaranteed loss. Obviously, Vitality should have done more with this Rengar pick in the early game, but I think it actually bodes well for a team like Unicorns that in the past has always kind of leaned on their star players to play the champions that they want. Unicorns haven't become kind of what they call in Europe meta slaves. Like, they've always had one of their own identity, and I think they can do that more in the upcoming weeks, especially when they start leaving open very obvious, like, broken champions, and the other team is forced to pick them, only to find out what the Unicorns have in store.
And because of the mind games then, or their strategy, they got their hands on Camille the next game as well, so they had a pretty good win condition straight off the bat.
Camille mostly proving that you can't let all OP champions go through, that there aren't always going to be viable counter picks, although
Disagree?
It wasn't quite that cut and dry.
I think you can, in certain matchups, you can leave Camille open if you have like a pushing bot lane that can take care of itself, you have a jungler pathing top lane. Like, there's a reason this champion does lose games. She is pretty strong, but I think if you get squeezed in pick and bans where you have to leave it open, it is still possible. I don't like the notion of just ruling it out, because if you have like a good Darius in that lane and that gets camped, like what is Camille gonna do? Every time she walks up, she gets clapped. So we'll need to see a few more weeks.
So, real quick, Vitality, did they lose mostly because of draft mistakes, and is that easily manageable, or did you see different things that weren't that good?
Oh, they definitely need to refine the teamwork still.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we saw the roams that we wanted from Nuke Duck, and additionally, Joko wasn't able to have the impact on Rengar that you expect when you pick something that's this strong and this high priority. You really need to see results, and we really didn't see those.
Okay, we'll see how that evolves for those two squads, and we'll see if we get any more crazy compositions in our 2 series today. We're going to kick everything off with G2 Esports taking on ROCCAT, ROCCAT. And furthermore, we have Splyce versus H2K. And I do want to look forward a bit more to that Splyce H2K matchup. Splyce, the last team we haven't seen, and we've heard through the grapevine that they are feeling really confident, really strong going into this split.
Yeah, definitely could be.
I'm really excited to see this one as well. We saw H2K not quite as strong as we maybe expected them to be, but this series is still very important as we expect these teams to be at the top of their group. So very important for one of them to pull out here.
And super exciting matchup. But for now, we're going to get straight into it and have a look at the first two teams rolling onto the Rift today. On the blue side, it is ROCCAT within the top lane, Faxi, Maxlor in the jungle, Betsy on mid, Yarnin at AD carry, Vadid on support, and their coach Grabs. Maxlor is coming in there. Betsy is also still there. And I think that Maxlor, he is going to have to be the cornerstone of this matchup, of this team, rather.
Yeah, I think he's just a solid jungler on the Rift, but he's also a good team player kind of off the Rift. And it's highlighted a little bit in the video that ROCCAT put out today as well, where he's talking about just wanting to really have a good team environment. He finds it very important. He thinks it's important that everybody gets along. And he seems to really want cohesion in that lineup because they will be going through growing pains. This is going to be a rough start for some matches, at least for ROCCAT. They won't come out of the gates doing everything right immediately. But a lot of these players have experienced that in the past. Hopefully they can use that experience for the better and not let it kind of make them annoyed that they're set back once more.
And there's a lot of players on this team that we don't know a ton about, a lot of younger players, but I kind of want to focus in on the known quantity, and that's Betsy. He was super inconsistent last season, and I'm really hoping that having Maxlor, having more leadership on this team can help him focus on playing mid lane, maybe getting support from the jungle as well, but either way, kind of improving that consistency because he had some great performances, but he also had a lot of performances where he really did not show through.
Yeah, in terms of guidance, they have Grabs again as their coach. They also added Freddy122, who used to be a player and has a lot of experience to help out in the assistant coach role. So we'll see what happens there. And they will be facing the European champions, the defending European champions, G2 Esports within the top lane. Expect in the jungle Trick at mid Perks, at AD carry Sven on support, Mithney, and their coach Youngbuck. Of course, we remember that fantastic match on day one when they played Fnatic. 2-1, things to be improved on, but overall, it was just a great one to start off the split with.
Honestly, a really exciting matchup. I was surprised to see Fnatic do so well with such a young lineup to take a game off. Weaknesses showing through on both sides, but overall, very exciting.
It was. It wasn't all smooth sailing, though, for G2, and here's what mid laner Perks had to say after that match.
I think it's going to take me a couple of more weeks to become really good again, because I've been working on myself like as to control myself more, to play smarter. I was just really using my brain in the off-season and thinking about the game and now I played the first series of the season, and I think I played really horrible, like mechanically wise or like laning or something, but I think my map movement was good and I would only die in team fights when I would misplay or something. So I think I'm a lot better on the macro department right now and being a better team player rather than being a better individual player. But I think like I kind of let the individual a bit too down, so I have to like get really good mechanically again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely the right approach for Perks to take, even if it hits him a little bit in the short term, where he obviously is not focusing super much about mechanics and matchups, but he is focusing kind of on the mental aspect. I spoke to him just now, actually, earlier in the makeup room, and he was there, definitely very cognizant of having to avoid tilt in the future, you know, not wanting to let it affect his gameplay, because there's going to be moments where you mess up or you get outplayed. That play from Caps was a 1%er. That doesn't happen very often. And despite going down in lane, and yes, the second death was a mistake from him, his map movements actually afterwards were very impressive, and he really helped G2 play solidly from behind. Maybe G2 could have lost that series if Fnatic was a little bit better, but you could definitely see a different Perks. Perks last season would have repetitively gotten caught on the side lanes, trying to overpush, trying to like make up for what he'd lost. But this was a slower approach from G2 Esports, and I think it's due to the improved infrastructure that they brought on board.
Yeah, bringing Weldon on board, of course, has to help with the improvement in mental game, and I think at the end of the day, this is something that we wanted to see from G2. They're not just setting their sights on immediate, like instant gratification by winning games in Europe. They're looking long-term, they're looking internationally, and they say, we'll suffer a little bit mechanically in the meantime, but as long as our players are confident in winning and can be consistent on stage, that is what matters most.
It sounds amazing. Now let's see if they can translate it to the Rift. The players are ready to get into picks and bans, so let's send it over to the caster desk.
Thank you very much, Shocks. And hello, esports fans. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, of course, joined here by my mate, James Stresso Leary. My beard bro, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, but I'm going to channel my inner eyes and say, let's go, get into picks and bans. I've heard the players are just about good to go, so I want to see what G2 have got in their second series for us. I want to see what ROCCAT have got in their first series here on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real tough challenge for ROCCAT to be in their first match here of the 2017 Spring Split, and they are, of course, going up against the defending two-time champions, G2. I mean, it's a whole new squad. It's a whole new day. We got some ROCCAT fans in the audience. They always do manage to bring a party, so we'll see what they are going to manage to bring out in picks and bans.
Yeah, going to see exactly what's going to happen because ROCCAT, so they picked blue side here as the first game of our series, which with the 10-ban system, we've started to see a few more picks get left through. The Rengar came through yesterday in the Unicorns Vitality series. We'll see whether G2 are confident in perhaps letting Memento have that.
Yep. Picks and bans are started. So we have Shen taken off the board first for ROCCAT on that blue side in phase 1. We'll see what G2 is going to answer with. Shen has been a staple here in the first week of ULCS so far.
Yeah, and certainly alleviates a lot of the presence on the map that obviously that top lane pick with Stand United has available. Remove one of those global potentials. And I asked, would they allow Memento? Of course, it's Maxlaw that's in the jungle for ROCCAT now for this split.
There.
So Maxlaw not going to get his hands on Rengar.
Yep, Rengar's taken off the board once again, continues to see that 100% pick ban. The same with the Camille now. And of course, Jace has been very popular in the ban column.
Same with the Jace. We've seen it a couple of games, top and mid. But interestingly, Misfortune getting taken off the board very early on. Perhaps that Malzahar, the Zyra matchups that we're going to start seeing a little bit more will continue today. ROCCAT may be looking for one first pick. Ryze still available as well.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what G2 spend their last ban on if ROCCAT are trying to bait this one out. Do they want to lock the Ryze for Betsy? Do they want to get Wadid on a powerful champion like Zyra?
There are a lot of other picks. Ryze away leaves LeBlanc and Syndra both available for the mid lane if ROCCAT want to run one into the other. Haven't seen too much of that matchup as a lot of them have just been banned out typically. So ROCCAT, after pinching that Misfortune, do they go for the Zyra, the Malzahar here in the first rotation? I mean, whichever is the first one, likely to see the Malzahar picked up again from G2 unless they want to opt for something like a Taric later in the draft.
Yeah, lots and lots of Zyra presence, but as you mentioned, the LeBlanc was left up. I would not be surprised to see that one go over. If they give it away to Betsy, G2, I feel like they're asking for trouble here, but there is also a Ryze. There's a lot of powerful mid picks still available.
And we haven't even started really looking at top lane. The Maokai is still available too. Sure, we've got the Shen away from the board. We've also not got Camille as an option up there, but there are still a lot of top laners available. Maokai has been such a high priority pick time and time again that there are so many picks people are classing as OP that even with 10 bans, only 3 of them for each team beginning, there's not enough to take everything off the table.
Absolutely not. So with the LeBlanc locked in, we also see the Kazakhs coming in for Trick. It's been a very popular jungle choice here in Europe so far, and pretty much across the world. And on a very aggressive jungler like Trick, this could do some serious damage to ROCCAT's early game.
Yeah, we've seen it pretty much in every region now. The Kazakhs has come out. So Trick looking to put the damage focus back into the jungle. 2 quick lock-ins for some utility for ROCCAT.
All right, so we have been seeing a little bit of Talia here in Europe. Of course, it's much more, or it's getting a little more popular in some of the other regions. But I like this. Look at all the poke that these guys are bringing to the party.
Talia into LeBlanc, though, is a matchup that I'm going to keep my eyes on pretty heavily throughout this matchup. Haven't seen it in quite a while now. We're going to see what Perkz can do up against this, Talia out of Betsy. And with an AD carry lock-in, what we have seen fairly often with this, the evolution of a 10-ban system, is when you've locked in Ashe already, you're basically going to start banning out Jhin and Varus in the second phase. So what G2 Esports have done here is pick themselves up the Jhin, not allow themselves to get bullied away from a matchup that they want. But now we turn our attention. Support still necessary for G2. Top lane still needed, whereas it's jungle and top lane for ROCCAT.
All right, so the Karma's banned away in phase number 2. But for G2, this is the Elise ban. We actually have not seen hardly any Elise, none in Europe, by the way, but a lot over in LCK. This is where they've diverged a little bit.
I like it, though. The Elise was a pick that Maxlaw has used fairly well over the last split. Now we take one away from top lane. This likely is going to leave Maxlaw on something like a Rek'Sai that we've seen time and time again. And if G2 don't take the Maokai, that's likely where Faxi is going for the top lane for ROCCAT.
All right, the last ban is going to be that Malzahar banned away by ROCCAT, so G2 will be hunting for another support choice for themselves.
And G2, I expect to look for the support here. Either they take the safe top laner, or they try and counterpick it slightly later on, which is what I think G2 are more likely to do. For supports that are left, obviously Misfortune out of the way, Malzahar out of the way, a lot of the favorable kind of matchups into that Zyra when it comes to trading damage, but there's a tank for you instead.
Yeah, very safe support, quite the definition for less mobile AD carry like Jhin. So we'll see what ROCCAT want to round their composition off with. The Maokai has slipped all the way through, so they locked that one in, and now we are just looking for a jungler. The Rek'Sai makes a lot of sense, but you know what? Lee Sin does as well.
Both are good picks right now, and ROCCAT have been fairly decisive with their picks. Obviously, having 3 games to see from G2, being able to scout out their picks and bans, means ROCCAT have been fairly fluid up until this point.
Yeah, and this is a team that in the offseason has added a little bit to their roster in terms of some coachability as well. It's not just grabs there. They also had Freddy122 now join as a strategic coach. See if it's paying off here.
And with the Tahm Kench picked up, this allows them to go a little bit more damage focus in the top lane if they want it. Rumble is the option on that one for Expect. He had to hover it right as I was about to say it. There was like 1 or 2 extra seconds.
Oh, you could almost be the genius.
If I'd have had it, would have been able to get it. He not locked in yet. We have started seeing a couple of other AP champions be picked in the top lane like the Singe, but it's going to be the Rumble on this one. And G2 round out a fairly high damage composition.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what's in Expect's wheelhouse too. Like, Rumble is one of the champions he started playing early on when he was beginning last summer with G2, and overall this composition has a solid mix of damage and some sustainability coming out of that Tahm Kench. Looks like we are going to be in for some serious mid-game team fights and some catches. That's what G2 looks to be looking for.
Yeah, G2, high damage. ROCCAT on the other side, high utility from a lot of their roles. Obviously, you've got the Ashe, you've got the Zyra for the knockup as well. Fair amount of damage on their lineup, but I want to see what Maxlor can do in this game. Settle himself on this Lee Sin. This is a matchup that can go Lee Sin's way if you don't find yourself on the receiving end of Kha'Zix 1v1s the entire game. Even then, post 6, Lee can do okay against Kha'Zix. If you can land the combo. We've seen a couple of times where Kha'Zix kind of checks into a bush, right into a Lee Sin, loses all of his health. I'm excited. Let's see what ROCCAT have got to offer us. Last split, they came out of the gate swinging, picked up a couple of wins to start their split off. So if they can do the same again, if they pick up wins against G2, that would be a big statement.
Absolutely. I mean, there's really no bigger you can make here in the European LCS, but it is a tough task ahead of them. They're going to have to avoid a real tricky mid-game. But if you guys think ROCCAT can do it, hop on Twitter, go to @LOL Esports, and tweet out #ROCWin. Or if you think the defending champs, of course, are going to walk away with this one easy peasy, #G2win is the hashtag you're looking for there. I mean, this is going to be a real explosive game. ROCCAT, they're looking to make their mark here in Europe in the 2017 Spring Split. Let's see what they can do as we load up onto Summoner's Rift.
So ROCCAT, new beginnings on this team with some old faces when you look, especially at their AD carry position. Hjarnan, haven't seen him in a split, but honestly, he was always touted as at least the top half of the EU LCS AD carry pool. Like, this guy, when he was playing with Kasing, very well renowned for their 2v2 presence. And I wonder now how they're going to play in-game with Hjarnan and Wadid, because first time we're seeing them here on the stage.
Absolutely. Hjarnan is definitely somebody you have to think back and remember. I mean, this is a guy that made Sivir look like a hyper carry, so let's see what he's able to do on this Ashe. Obviously a utility choice, but I mean, it can pump out some serious damage.
And you know, I had a moment to speak with Hjarnan earlier today about his, playing with Wadid, how Wadid actually is coping, and he said, it's good so far.
What did he say?
He said it's good so far, everything seems to be good, but that Wadid is a player that is looking to improve at all times, constantly wants to get better, always asking, looking to improve the foundations of ROCCAT. So maybe that's the kind of player that Hjarnan, with all of his experience, can actually use to thrive and create a good bottom lane for ROCCAT, because a lot of people are underselling ROCCAT right now. Mm-hmm. There are very experienced players on this lineup, and some new faces as well. So ROCCAT are the kind of team that if everything aligns and comes together, they can start picking up wins.
Yeah, I mean, the focus for the team does seem to be, hey, let's get together, let's make the best team environment we can. You've heard it, of course, from Maxlor, but they're gonna have to start by securing their blue buff here, as Expect is giving him a little hard of a time. Foxy was there with Maxlor, and it's no trouble as they spot out that he is starting, of course, on the blue side, but no surprises there. We'll want to keep an eye on how the junglers do interact early on in this game. Back to mid. Betsy and Perks are just going to trade a few slaps back and forth. For now, the Thunderlord's proc on Perks pushing him back, but LeBlanc is going to want to wait a few levels before she can really get that combo damage going.
And, in Europe, we haven't seen this matchup in a fair amount of time. When you look at, regular status drawing in the first week of play, of course, LeBlanc now has considerably more wave play than she used to. Talia has a little bit less than before that rework on her Q. So we'll see now how Perks and Betsy can play this one out. Betsy, early ward down, trying to spot out Trick. Doesn't see him, and there were pings already down on the Wolf camp. They're predicting Trick's movement already on this map, and I want to see whether Trick goes for an early Rift Scuttler here, or whether they actually end up delaying it slightly for Gromp, trying to just track Maxlor as well. Look, Wadid wants to see the same kind of thing, trying to get just as much vision control down as they can.
Yeah, it seems pretty clutch that they are looking at tracking Trick all over the map. As you can see, Maxlor actually looking to cut him off. He spots him and backs away. This is so important against the Kazakhs to deny some of this early game.
So Maxlor will now know, obviously, that Trick was around. Wadid's going to come up and help. Betsy crosses over as well. This is a nice little attempt by allowing Wadid to come up from the bot side to take away the blue buff from Maxlor. As you said, Trick spotted it out, so Trick's instant response, recall, don't even take the fight, head up to the top side and try and get the rest of his jungle up there. But this is a good start out of ROCCAT. If they needed to put Trick behind, which they certainly do, this would be how to do it.
Yep. We'll have to see how much it does set Trick behind. We've seen a few Kazai, I don't really know, really get set behind, but still managed to pick up some kills. Yankos comes to mind from day number 1. But all the same, G2, they're not the defending back-to-back champions for nothing here. With this lineup, they have so many powerful players, and we'll see if that comes to bear here as Betsy gets locked up by the chains. Half his health is dealt from Perkz, but he threads the volley right back, and Perkz is going to have to walk it back to tower.
Yeah, fair amount of damage comes out. Forces a pot out of Betsy, but Betsy ends up recalling out anyway, so going to try and use some of that extra movement speed from the passive to get back to lane. Second Doran's ring and the control ward, just going to try and control as much vision around that mid lane as possible, because if you let a Kha'Zix or a LeBlanc start disappearing off the map, or Kha'Zix coming into mid lane, there's so much damage between those two at this point in the game that it's going to start that snowball rolling for G2, so clear focus on vision out of ROCCAT already.
Yeah, and clear focus on G2 to try to get that vision to spot the counter, if you will, as Mithy noms up Sven as he got caught on the grasping roots. But take a look at how they've already set him behind. Maxlor's a level advantage he has had for a little while. He's going to back here so he doesn't quite get, you know, a double level up. But Trick is kind of starved for farm at the minute.
Yeah, ooh, look, you can see Betsy was roaming up. Got spotted out on a ward. Heads back to mid lane though. So a little bit of a quieter start to this. We had a moment of skirmish down in the bottom lane where Sven looked like he was caught out, just eaten up by Mithy with the Tahm Kench. That's kind of one of the difficulties now. The laning phase for Sven and Mithy can be a little precarious. But overall, Mithy should never let Sven die in this. They have Exhaust, they have Heal, they have Tahm Kench. There's no real way that Sven should ever die in a laning phase situation. And Hyanan and Wadid do know that. They're trying to just push in, create as much pressure on the bot side, try and just force Sven and Mithy under tower and get tower damage for as much as they can.
Yeah, it's more than just trying to beat these guys or just trying to win the lane in general. I mean, this is a chip on their shoulder. Wadid said, you know, in the ROCCAT intro video, hey, you know, I think Mithy is the best support in Europe. Many would agree, and he's eager to test his mettle against him. So far, so good with this Aszyra bot. Obviously, it's a very powerful lane, but they're doing the job that they need to.
Yeah, certainly doing the job they need to for now. They're doing a good job of keeping eyes on Trick, at least knowing where he is through the jungle.
Oh boy.
Maxlor's gone over.
Ooh. Quick hop from Trick.
Yep, Trick knew he was in trouble. You can see how low health he was. They just got the health fruit in the river. But the fact they forced him back may open up for a dragon here if they want to go for it. They haven't got too much damage available right now between Lee and Talia, but it should be enough to be able to take it down. Maxwell's just going to try and solo it. It is possible on Lee Sin. Between the shields, the attack speed, and just everything else for Lee Sin, you can actually do it. It takes a little while, but Maxwell's going to secure the Ocean Drake for ROCCAT.
Yeah, no other farm to take on the map. Why not get the big dragon? And Betsy's even going to cover for him as the wave has been shoved in. 6.5 minutes into this game, this will give ROCCAT a little bit more of a lead. They already had some gold, but we are still shy of a first blood. However, ROCCAT are pushing in 2 out of 3 lanes.
And it's fairly rare that a team targets out Trick as a player on G2 to try and push behind, try and put him on the back foot. Keep in mind, Trick is the 2-time EU-LCS MVP all the way through 2016. This is a guy who we said was always consistent, even when G2 were on the back foot as a team. And to go into this game and say, hey, Trick's the guy we're targeting. He's the guy we're going to try and make a weakness out of this team. It's a ballsy play out of ROCCAT. It's worked to some extent so far. First dragon of the game, they forced him back a little bit, but they haven't stopped him farming. He is still ahead, so it's not crippling G2 yet.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that you know, when you try to put Trick behind or try to put anybody on something like a Kha'Zix behind, it looks good up until the point that the Kha'Zix starts getting, you know, a single, a double, a triple kill. So you got to be careful there, as Betsy has to be careful himself. He does spot Perks, as Perks spots him. And actually not a whole lot of damage traded. That could have been a hell of a lot worse here.
Yeah, it looks like Perks was expecting a little more out of Betsy in reply. Maybe was expecting the, you know, the minefield to come out. I'm not sure exactly. Perks just didn't really feel like going too far aggressive. Maybe he was worried about where Maxlaw was as well. So neither one really trades out too much damage. But I like what Maxlaw and Betsy have been doing. Pretty together and uniform play from the two of them. Just trying to get as much vision control and deny as much of the jungle for Trick as they can.
Yeah, it's smart League of Legends, and you know, it is a very quiet early game, but this is a team still searching for their identity. I mean, the entire roster minus Betsy is brand new. Maxlaw, of course, making a name for himself on Giants in the last season. But, you know, Yarnan kind of coming to return after, you know, his stint kind of just keeping himself out of the limelight for a little bit. Wadid and Foxy brand new to the LCS stage. There's still a lot that we don't know about this roster going to be revealed over the next couple of weeks, as Foxy actually haven't talked about him much this game, goes in on to expect. But what do you expect? Because it is a Maokai versus a Rumble.
It's a Maokai lane, which means Maokai is going to drop behind in CS until he's got one item completed, and then start teleporting into fights. So
it's a very scientific lane. You can predict a lot of what's going to happen.
Pretty much just going to be the same thing every single time. So for Foxy, nothing really that he has to do too quickly in this game, but if you can get some good flanks off later on, perhaps we'll start seeing a little more out of him. Perks finds Betsy.
Chains are on, but he does do some damage back. Can't get the seismic shove, but in comes Smithy. They choose Maxlaw as the target. The tongue lash won't connect as he flashes away from it. Wadid looking to come back in. And on the backside, Yarnan is there, sends the hawk shot, but he's spotted. G2 want none of this. So that one's going to be stalled, and Yarnan goes back to the bottom lane to farm it out against Sven.
I like the attempted turnaround of that play. You know, utilizing the Tahm Kench. It wasn't a full commit with Sven as well. They weren't looking to try and start the biggest fight, but they certainly get enough from it. They get Maxlaw's flash, they get Betsy's ghost. They did have to expend the Tahm Kench ult though, so that is a little bit away from the mix.
All of a sudden, oh, the wet noodle fight just turned deadly. Okay, so Expect is hanging on.
Hanging around. Flash
follows him all the way through, and first blood for the Maokai. Whoa, Foxy, way to make an entrance to LCS with a solo kill.
Oh, Expect, he's gone blasting one, didn't go towards the Haunting guys and into double Doran's Ruby Crystal. Just underestimated the heal and the damage that was going to come out from Foxy. Between Foxy's abilities and the passive, Expect played way too far forward and aggressive in that matchup, was trying to just punish as much as he can, and Maokai's going to come out of this lane ahead, and that is not something that should happen in the Rumble Maokai matchup.
Yeah, flash for flash burned. He just narrowly got him to follow through on the twisted advance, and I mean, that's a great play out of a rookie right there. Let's take a look at it one more time.
Yeah, Foxy, they traded for a while here. Expect thought he was okay. He's still fairly high health, over half. But then as soon as the ultimate comes on, there's a couple of minions in here doing a little bit of damage time and time again to Expect. And Expect, his shield drops and he goes aggressive, doesn't instinct flash. The twisted advance had already begun the animation. He gets locked down. Foxy picks up a big 1v1 kill against, you know, Expect. He's been on G2 when they've won the split. That's such a big kill to start picking up for ROCCAT.
Yeah, and you know, this really does tie back to what we saw from Expect so far in their first series against Fnatic. A little bit better than, you know, maybe we saw in his very first split, but still very middling overall, and that was something we wanted to touch on, is how Expect was going to do against a lot of these untested top lanes.
Well, he might have something to do here as the play is going on bottom side. If he TPs in, does have ultimate available, but look, G2 a little bit wise to it, which means it's just going to be the tower push.
Perks is coming, though.
Yeah.
Hold up here. Oh, boy. Okay, so it is the game of who catches who, and it looks like it's going to be Betsy. 1-shot, 2-shot, curtain call, 3-shot. The 4th does not get blocked, but Betsy is still hanging around. Perks looking to cut him off. Ooh, flashes the wall after he built it. All right. So Betsy's out. Maybe not the cleanest way, but he's surfing to freedom.
Not very clean on that one. ROCCAT did get first tower of the game, though. They have themselves a 2,000 gold lead. Good platform to build from, and I want to elaborate a little bit more on that Expect point that we were talking about. You know, I actually thought Expect was given almost a free pass to the group stage, being in this group with top laners. I mean, when you look at the competition that he's got to go up against, it's not exactly the toughest. I mean, outside of SOAS, you have very untested top laners. Alfari, people say he could be good, but we haven't seen it proven. The other group is like the group of death for top lane. You've got Odo Amne, you've got Cabochard, you've got Vizicachi. These are all highly experienced top laners, and expect managers to dodge most of them in the group stage, but he's dying 1v1 to Faxi. This is not something that we really could have predicted for G2. Expect has improved, but he is making a mistake here, and I gotta wonder how much that's going to play into his mental game right now.
Yeah, and how much is it going to play into the mid game here for ROCCAT? Because G2 have built themselves a composition that can certainly thrive off a lot of, pick chances and really, really scattered team skirmishes. But ROCCAT have been playing this early game very well together, coordinating to try and stop the Trick vision, make sure he's not so relevant and can't get a gank off. Foxy's been able to get a solo kill. I mean, if they can keep this kind of pressure up, they could very well walk away with the game. Once they get to late and you start having like an impossible to kill Maokai, Ashe, who's just able to chase people down after they follow up with a big arrow, and then of course Talia on 3 items or so is going to be pretty terrifying as well. We'll see how it all goes as Maxlor gets found out by Trick. That burst damage is big. Perks looks to go in. Maxlor is finished, but Trick will follow. It's a pair of junglers knocked down.
Yeah, Perks just managed to connect with the Sigil, then ended up picking up the kill. Mithy wants to go.
Oh, indeed. He's going to be stopped and surrounded by 3 members of G2, and Sven claims the kill, 2-2.
It looks like G2 have realized they couldn't take ROCCAT sleeping on this exchange. Couple of plays went in ROCCAT's favor early on, and finally G2 start making plays of their own. Trick is on somewhat even footing now, even ahead when it comes to the experience, so was able to find Maxlor and, utilize a lot of that damage. Now Faxi wants to find Expect in a fight.
We've seen this before. Well, let's take a look back at how the catch happened. Maxlor gets jumped on.
Yeah, and you can see Maxlor loses so much of his health to begin with. Sigil did just about connect, otherwise that potentially could have turned around into a kill for Maxlor if Perks hadn't picked it up. Then would he just not in the quite the right spot, trying to go over the catwalk, gets killed there. Sven comes in with Mithy. That time it wasn't just the support.
All right, so a little bit more action as we hit 15 minutes of this game. The latest first blood we've had by a couple of minutes so far in the European LCS, but we're sitting at 2 kills apiece. Still a slim advantage for ROCCAT. A lot of that coming off the back of them securing the first tower of the game. And honestly, the denial of farm from Trick hasn't really panned out, but he hasn't been able to get involved, minus that 1 assist he actually picked up on a Maxlor, since it was finished off by Perks. Arguably some much needed gold for him as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult spot to try and put a jungler that far behind that they can't still have influence on the game. So ROCCAT, they built themselves a decent lead, still have roughly the same lead they had earlier, but it's all on what Maxlor and the rest of the team can do in the next couple of phases. They just saw Trick on the top side. Betsy and Maxlor are waiting to see if Perks is going to recklessly move up through into the top side of the jungle, and Perks, this time, no reckless play about it, actually just backed himself out as well. Hyanan has to be careful, double TP coming through.
He is gonna get caught, no 2 ways about it, jumped on flash heal, it is not at all enough, and the teleport is canceled by Foxy. Oh boy, they really brought the whole team to the party. Betsy is desperately trying to get himself some farm out, but it doesn't even matter. Oh wait, it might! Hold on a minute, they knock Mithy right back in, kicking him, denying everything to get him back to his tower. But, however, the red carpet is laid down. Mithy still staying firm here as Betsy is gonna get caught by the rest of the team. Maxlor has jumped in, safeguard, not safe enough. Maxlor is burning and gone, and down goes Wadid. And just like that, 3 kills on the board for G2, and 2 of them to Perks.
G2 were, quick to react into the top lane with that double TP, welcoming Hyanan back into the EU LCS, and then it all goes mid. And ROCCAT overcommit. G2 have turned this game all the way back around. G2 in full control.
Yeah, just like that, 1 big swing, and it was just like we thought it was going to happen. Big catch, followed by another one, and here it goes again.
I don't think Hyanan saw the promo we put out, because it's not just Hyanan that was back. They're all back right now up into that top lane. Every member of G2 there to go 5 versus 1. And then they go mid lane. It looked a little touch and go for G2 for a while. Mithy just too difficult to kill though with the shields. Betsy tried to chase, he wanted to get everything he could, but Perks was healthy enough to come back right into this fight. Body blocks some of the damage, and then in comes Trick and Expect to clean this one up. And oh, it was looking so good for ROCCAT. You can see Betsy knows himself. That is the turning point that gives ROCCAT's game away. And G2 right now. Oh, you didn't want to let a 4-0 LeBlanc happen.
Yeah, that feels bad, man. So, Perks, you know, we heard him talk about how he's focused on the offseason on becoming such a great team player, relatively speaking, but he needed to work on his mechanics. Well, he hasn't had any trouble this game, and he's had a couple of kills fall right into his lap, and he has picked them up. 4-0-2. Perks is back.
Yeah, and with any set of boots that some people still are wondering why we're seeing Merc treads on mid laners. Well, the reason for it, you look across the rift and you see a Maokai, you see an Ashe, you see a Zyra, and you see yourself getting locked down for an eternity if anything hits you. So you got to try and get out of it. And speaking of getting locked down,
oh, goodbye. Sven clears the last shot on Yarnan. What did is going to be able to inch away, but now the tower is free game here. They're not going to go too deep in. Remember, we're not even 20 minutes in. They're looking to knock down a second tier. It is now 2-1 in the tower score for G2, but that gold lead keeps on rolling for G2. 2,500 Mithy pressing into this jungle right now as the rest of ROCCAT are scrambling to try and come back. The air drake is going to be started by G2 now, give them a little bit more speed. Get to those objectives a little bit faster. Now Max Lore, if he wants to try to go in for the hero play, I don't know if it's worth it. Gets it. Okay. I guess they've always got that.
Whew. Smite while traveling through the air.
Yeah, he made that play look good.
I'm paying attention. Looks like Trick had his smite on this one, so.
Oh, man.
Always got to check those smite cooldowns.
Yes, you do. All right, so ROCCAT get themselves a Cloud Drake. They have the Ocean, so they definitely have a little bit more to work with here, and you know maybe they can position themselves a little bit better, but you have to be careful. This is still the dangerous mid-game, and if they give up another set of kills like they did earlier to G2, it could be lights out.
Yeah, exactly. I think ROCCAT are on that tipping point where one more fight going away from them is going to result in a fairly fast Baron, and then G2 kind of just winding this game up. And it's a shame, really, because, I mean, ROCCAT, their early game was pretty good. I was actually fairly impressed by how they handled Trick in the early game, trying to get as much of an advantage on Max Lore as they could, but they couldn't just bring everything together at the same time. And you can see G2 coaching staff focused, laser focus.
Well, Young Buck's inscrutable as always. You can never read anything off of his face, to be honest, and that's probably a good quality when you're a coach. They look to push down towards mid. ROCCAT found themselves in a position to do it, but you can see Perks bringing up the rear in the back. There's no mini wave to work with as bouncing grenades.
Nearly double TP timing available for G2. You can see Expect's available, Perks isn't. They were pinging on wards in the lower side jungle, would have been able to completely cut ROCCAT off.
That is a great recall animation. I just want to take a quick break from the action just to make it known.
And then you substitute it for Zone Chaos and Mumu in the middle of that, and then it just breaks the internet.
Yes, on the regular basis. All right. Let's get back into the game, though. We're 20 minutes into this one, 20 plus. There will be a Mountain Drake coming up next, but it's some time before that happens. For now, ROCCAT still need to stop this push. There are so many G2 members and so many G2 wards inside their bottom jungle. And Faxi might be tanky, but not quite enough.
Mithy's coming with Trick on the bottom lane.
They know it.
They were on a ward, okay.
Okay, still, Faxi can't really do much more than toss a sapling or two, and you can see why that big gold swing that really lost them out after the 15-minute mark. It's been really, really rough for them to recover. But they do have some scaling on their side, right? I mean, you've got the Maokai, you've got Atalia that is now sitting 1.5 items. You need a few more before you can really start to dish the damage.
Yeah, the problem is, like, ROCCAT were a little slow to utilize the Taliyah roaming plays after some of those first kills. We saw them try and use one bot lane, but Betsy kind of misplayed with the ultimate, couldn't quite ride it out, had to burn his flash, and they ended up dropping fairly low before that.
Oh, all right.
Max Lore
follows all the way. No. Trying to get the kickoff back, but it did not work.
Sven flashing as Max Lore flashed means there was no flash kick available, or kick flash for Max Lore. Couldn't quite close the distance. You see a very familiar face on your screen in the bottom left.
Yeah,
Freddy, of course, is on the strategic coaching team for ROCCAT.
really like what they were able to do with picks and bans this time around. This problem still is you're facing off against G2, and this is guys that, you know, we talked about Expect and how we want him to, you know, step up a little bit more and maybe not make some of those critical mistakes. But if that's the worst news you've got on your team, you're not doing too bad, because they have got effectively top 3 or top players in 3 of their roles here. You got Sven and Mithy, the best bot lane in AU, and then you've got Trick, 2-time MVP, and even though he was shut down a little bit early, he's still making his presence known this game. Has a Black Cleaver. He's going to be doing some serious damage. Perks is looking to do some himself.
And Perks is looking to stamp his name firmly at the top of the EULCS mid lane pool. Had a little bit of a shaky summer, perhaps, when you look at it. Had a lot of good performances, and some people were calling into question some others, but certainly 4-0-3 in this game, and is off to a good start. A good start. I mean, 4-0-3 is enough to make your teammates basically AFK in solo queue if it's a LeBlanc.
Well, it's the LCS. There's always a chance for the comebacks. I guess that's true in solo queue too. Expect is down on the bottom side. He's going to continue to have this epic fight out with Foxy. Maxlor's coming to the rescue, but Trick is there too. You can see how much focus G2 are putting on this bottom side of the map, and there's not enough vision now. The pings are flying for G2. He's going to flash forward. Foxy looking for more. There's a teleport coming. G2. Double TPs now. They've got to back away. Mithy's already joined. In comes Perks. They throw down the equalizer. They're burning through the Maokai. Maxlor's trying to help. He gets none. The Astro's there. It's helping, but is it going to be enough? Trick is melted down, but Perks picks up the Maokai 1-for-1. Honestly, that's the best you could hope for as ROCCAT.
Yeah, good arrow keeps it to 1-for-1. The tower's going to fall in favor of G2 on the bot side. Betsy's going to try and do the same on the top side as it's happening, so it's going to be a net, pretty much even trade between the teams. But now we got to look at the fallout. Perks is still looking to just pick anybody off that he can. He's strong enough that if Wood did steps out of line, he's going to be able to instantly blow him up, but there is the tower going down for Betsy topside.
Fantastic performance from Perks so far, but this G2 team has been making moves in the right direction. You think they were the ones that managed to secure the Cloud Drake, but you know, here we are, almost 25 minutes in, still about 3,000 gold lead, but credit to ROCCAT for staying relevant. Let's take a look at how it all happened one more time.
So Foxy goes aggressive onto Expect, and what do you know, out come all of the teleports in response, and even Jin is close enough so that when this fight continues, if he needs to open up his ultimate, he can. Good arrow, as Trick was the one that caught it. Not really sure Trick was wanting to catch it under the tower, but you know, Trick, you know, it's only his second death of the game, and considering the pressure that was put on him by ROCCAT, that's pretty good. Trick's been able to hold his own, and you wouldn't expect any less from the 2-time MVP.
Absolutely, and you know, it's not all about one person, specifically the same person carrying over and over again. In the spring split of 2016, Perks was just an outstanding rookie, and now he's had a chance to be really, really impressive on this LeBlanc, and we've seen him do it. 100% kill participation doesn't hurt either. Curious to see how they use him if this game goes too long. I mean, we're 25 minutes in, could very well go to a late stage of the game. ROCCAT now have sent 3 people down here, but there's a double teleport, and in comes Trick and Mithy. It's never just one, and just like that, they're gonna burn through Maxlor. Perks gets nailed by the arrow, but it doesn't even matter as Sven picks off Wadid, and now it is all Foxy, but he cannot get away. They're chomping through him, and Trick picks up his first kill of the game. And now it's Dragon time.
The last fight, Expect hadn't used his TP. Mithy's ult was back available. Expect comes down to the bot side. Mithy brings the rest of the team with him. And ROCCAT with another overcommit, trying to just pick off one member of G2. And G2, they're going straight towards that Baron.
I was gonna say, they said, forget it, we don't need the Dragon because there's a bigger objective on this map. There's 26 minutes, we can make this happen. 11 kills to 3. G2 continuing to cement their lead, and if they can knock this one down without too much resistance. Maxlor's only just come up, There's not much they can do.
And ROCCAT can't really do anything here. You can see Hyun on bot side just trying to shove the wave back to try and delay as much damage to the towers and structures with the first wave as possible. So Hyun just trying to get themselves anything from this bad trade, because, I mean, they tried to go aggressive on Perks, who drops all of the vision. TPs come out easily.
Oh, yeah.
And G2 are there before ROCCAT have ever engaged that. That's the biggest problem, is G2 were under no pressure as ROCCAT were closing it.
You've got a double TP composition that also has a Tom Kench who can bring your AD carry. You have no problems getting isolated. ROCCAT keep on trying to make this play happen. And you can see the Ash Arrow is going to be flashed by Expect. He's not falling for that one, but he still pushes the Baron empowered minions. ROCCAT are just looking for picks here, but they're losing out on mid. Perk, Sven, and Mythi are all there.
Perk, Sven, and Mythi, a lot of damage between them and the tankiness to survive. Meanwhile, on ROCCAT, can't really say too much in the way of damage of just being given word that Wadid has done more damage than anybody else on ROCCAT right now. It's somewhat to be expected that he's got high damage on Zyra, but you wouldn't really expect the support to be the one like, hey guys, I've got the damage, I'm gonna carry.
Yeah, that's a little rough. And as we take a pause into this game.
Someone's pausing, it's like, quick, do the calculations again. That can't be right.
Well, for G2, they have to be pretty happy that it is for the moment, since ever since that quick turnaround, a couple of kills picked off, they have been looking in full control. And this is the G2 that we really expected coming into the split.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we saw them against Fnatic. Fnatic drew them to a long game and had that Rise play from Caps to try and crush down the base in their series. But, I mean, this is more of the G2 now, but the beginning of this game was a lot more about ROCCAT, which I think is very commendable.
They played it really, really smart. I mean, you have to give this team a lot of credit here for coming in and going up against not only a really tough squad that has a lot of really high-level players, but two-time back-to-back champions with a whole brand new squad and not making any serious mistakes, and at least until like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, you can see the problem seems to be with the mouse on Betsy. So we're having people help out, try and get that fixed. Hopefully shouldn't be too long. Hopefully we can get back into it. Betsy, not exactly having the loudest of games when you look at it. 0-1 and 0. Not really what you want on a roaming mid laner like Talia. Normally want to pick up a couple of assists, but only 3 kills to ROCCAT as a team. And one of them was a solo kill from Faxi early on.
Which was pretty sick, have to admit. So Faxi
Yeah,
definitely making a pretty explosive entrance, but even, surprisingly even on Maokai. But you're right, this is a team that has a lot of utility, and they've been trying to use it to catch people, but it's just been foiled time and time again by G2, and Betsy in particular just hasn't had the greatest of games. I mean, he's up against a Perks performance that we have not seen for a long time. I mean, I guess when you shut down one member of G2, it's like cutting off a Hydra's head, just another one pops up,
I guess so. I mean, at this point, Perks, he's been reading, he's been tweeting very heavily about his empowerment books that he's been reading, that...
It's a homework from Weldon?
Well, actually, I believe it, well, maybe, we don't know. Weldon got announced after he started reading the book, so maybe if Perks believes that he can be 5-0-6 on LeBlanc, maybe he will be.
The proof's in the pudding right now. He's having a great game.
But there's a lot to be said for the mental... aspect of the competitive level of League of Legends. There's a reason why sometimes players will take a break from teams. I mean, Hyanan said that he was taking a split off. He's come back now. Perks clearly feeling that between Weldon and the improvement he's done himself, feels like he can maintain the level and maybe even go above and beyond what he was before. And certainly this game has started to turn around very heavily in his favor. So something's working for him.
Yeah, and honestly, for G2 as a whole, nobody's really slouching. Like, you can talk about Expect making a little bit of a mistake, but he's been thriving in these team fights and these skirmishes. I hesitate to even call them team fights because it's really a catch that turns into a counter catch for the most part. And G2 are just responding with such incredible rapidity. It's the kind of thing we expect from a team of their caliber.
And as we head back into the game, you have to feel like G2, they were woken up by ROCCAT's first few skirmishes. G2 suddenly realizing they can't really play around in the early game and be slow anymore. So G2 have really taken it back to ROCCAT as this game's gone on. 28 minutes on the clock, G2 in a good position.
Oh, we're pausing again. Uh-oh. That's okay. We still get to talk about how well G2 are doing. I wanted to talk about Sven.
Okay.
Because he, of course, has gone for the Ghostblade start on the Jhin, excuse me. We have been seeing a couple of varieties in how you pick when you choose that champion, but it was very high on the pick and ban, still in phase number 1 that they locked that one in.
Keep in mind there's a reason for that. The fact that Ashe had been picked on blue side in phase 1 means if G2 hadn't picked their AD carry, instantly they'd lose 2. They'd lose Jhin and likely Varus, which forces you now on something like a Caitlyn, which we know is still strong. If you're TSM, it forces you onto Kalista, as we saw at a Wild Turtle last night. So basically, this was G2 saying, okay, let's give away anything else. Like, let's just go into phase 2, having our AD carry matchup, something that we feel is good enough for our bot lane. I feel like Sven should, in theory, be able to take any matchup in the bot lane. He will say that fairly often himself. They're very confident. But in the draft, G2 putting focus on the AD carry before they had a chance to have it banned away.
Yeah, and it was something that was very comfortable for Sven. Yes, we can talk about how he's pretty much good on everything, but it was something we saw him play a lot of last year, had a solid win rate on it, just kind of became, I don't want to say a signature champion, but definitely one of the ones that you associate with Sven. Just a quick update for everybody still wondering, it is a mouse issue on Betsy, so we're swapping the mice out, or 1-for-1 mouse, I should say, as we'll get ready to go back into game pretty soon, just testing that one out.
Testing it out. Hopefully we'll be able to get back in as we zoom in on the ROCCAT logo.
Reminds me of a fun story, though. It actually was something Maxlor was saying in their video introducing the players, that he only really got started playing competitive league Season 4, Season 5-ish, and the reason he didn't go sooner was because he had, and I quote, an office mouse. So I guess peripherals do make a big bit of difference, and well, here he is now.
I don't know whether that's an excuse, Pyra.
All I know is that I love my gaming mouse.
I mean, I hate to bring up the trackball. It's been a long time since we've had to.
I haven't heard that in a while.
The pedigree in Europe certainly has not been anything to do with equipment. We've had our fair share of different things. So, I mean, we'll see how Maxlor settles himself.
Well, I suppose we will. But for now, we're going to go ahead and head to the analyst test to break this game down in progress. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much. We are taking a bit of time here until the mouse issue is fixed, but it shouldn't take that long. And I want to connect back to a topic that we started up before the match, being Maxlor. Will he be the cornerstone of this ROCCAT? And we did see him coming out of the gate trying to make a lot of aggressive moves. How much did it yield them in the end?
Well, I really like the proactive play following his first clear where they invaded as a team. They used their bot lane priority to move in, to contest that blue buff, to take it away. I thought that showed smart, intelligent play. But it didn't transition too much to mean anything more. The first 10 minutes of the game, Maxlor felt like he was doing everything by the book. He got them the Ocean Drake, which is absurdly powerful if you get it that early. But after that, it didn't feel like the rest of the team could follow up, and it didn't feel like he generated a sizable enough advantage to kind of ensure victory coming out of the early game.
Yeah, it just shows you that ROCCAT is still a team in the making. So this is kind of a gameplay pattern, what we saw, the exact same movements. You start top side because you have a pushing mid and a bot side, which means you have the option to invade, especially if you're a duelist jungler like Lee Sin. It kind of allows you to play with more freedom, and that's something you can practice in scrims, because it's something where you start, you move to the other side, you can invade. The problem is how to follow up, whether that goes right or wrong, is something you need to practice over a large set of scrims, and I don't think ROCCAT is just quite there yet. But it was nice to see that they could actually refine an invade strategy pretty early.
It was a good start. We're momentarily getting back into game so quickly. Can ROCCAT turn it around? If yes, what do they have to do?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, no. It's near impossible, and it would require G2 to make mistakes, and I do not expect that from G2.
Well, let's hope they don't give up at least and try and make or get a grip on some mechanics that could get them back in the game in any case. And I think we are about ready to jump back in if the mouse issue is resolved.
If not,
yes, we are. Casters, take it away.
Thanks again, Shocks. All right, we're getting back into game. And yeah, I mean, the analysts may not believe. Obviously, it would take quite a lot to come back into this game for ROCCAT. But remember, it is a best-of-3 series. There's a lot they can take away from this so far. And in all honesty, there's still plenty of time to play this game out if they don't, give up an insane amount of kills right now.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of the analyst task. It would take some real nice fake hype to really say that this could go wrong.
You guys are brutal today. All right, let's see how it shakes out.
No, on a serious note, G2, keep in mind, they've just picked up the Baron. G2 are in a pretty commanding position after turning this game back around. The only real saving grace for ROCCAT is 3 dragons, but right now, it's a bit of a mix and match of useful and not particularly strong dragons. The mountain will help if ever ROCCAT stand in front of an objective or tower, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten the 2 towers for themselves, one up in top and one down on bottom, but they're yet to knock down the first in mid. And the way things are looking, it's going to be harder and harder for them to get anywhere near that right now as G2 are bearing down. 3 members in the lane, a 4th. Trick standing in the shadows to see if ROCCAT step out of position. But with Perks threatening on the middle, too, and Betsy just not able to push him back. It's the slow and inevitable-looking march to victory for G2 Esports.
That's the thing, is Betsy can't shove that minion wave back. His only option is actually to go aggressive on Perks or hope Perks oversteps his boundary. So Hyanan comes across. Bit of a risky play to come so, cutting the shortcut outside of the base, but with that outer tower still available in the top side, G2 do have to do their due diligence and push in here. So keep in mind, only about an 1/8 of the Baron buff still remaining on the side of G2.
Some quick calculations there. I want to ask you a little bit about, pick and ban. Well, we're going to have to catch in a minute, but Mithy's there, and he's going to flash it. All right. False alarm. Trick looking to come back in here. We'll see if they're able to back away. He just sent some void spikes. It's fine. Let's talk about pick ban, because it really did look that ROCCAT had a fairly solid composition for what they were trying to do, but it just seems like execution just got outdone by G2.
Yeah, I mean, the pick and ban, I think, was okay out of ROCCAT. Getting their hands on the Zyra, the Ashe, the Maokai, I think is a fairly strong basis. From there, the Talia for Betsy hasn't really done too much, but I don't necessarily think it's pick and ban focused, and is that reason.
Well, the question I want to then pose is, what do they need to mix up for game number 2? Like, obviously, that only has so much to do with it when you're facing down a team of the caliber of G2. But what, if anything, can they do? Can they take out of that first pick and ban phase in this first game, going into game number 2?
Well, you can take out that G2 wouldn't be silly enough to let you ban away 2 of their AD carries before they pick it up. So certainly ROCCAT were in a hurry to pick up the Ashe for themselves, which is good. That's fine. That's not a problem. And they were maybe just trying to test the waters, see if G2 were willing to give it away. So certainly now ROCCAT will know that if the same kind of situation happens in a second game. But due to the pause, we are a little bit slower from this. A lot of people will be looking at that and say, hey, they said G2 were just about to win this game, just about done, but we will be likely going to another Baron before this game is done.
That's true. And maybe this is a chance for ROCCAT to try and contest something desperately. I mean, they're down a lot of gold. This is like 9,000 in the favor of G2, and that's 5 towers to 2 that you're really looking at. Perk's able to knock that one down on the bottom. But if they can get a catch when the Baron spawns back up, there might just be a chance for them to get involved. The thing is, they are not getting anywhere near that. Perks is making this look too easy.
He's LeBlanc, makes it look very easy, very mobile. As you said, really, it's only like a catch before the Baron or Baron steal attempt is really going to help ROCCAT out in this. And G2, how are they ever going to get caught when they've got Tom Kench? Maybe if he goes over the wall.
Something like that. Perks trying to make the great escape, but the auto follows him. And just like that, here's the chance for ROCCAT, looking to cut off Sven and Mithy. The Q does not connect from Maxlor, but they should be able to polish off this tower without the threat of Perks here in the mid lane. They're marching the minions forward, a couple of Jhin traps, but it won't even matter. Baron's up in a minute and a half. It's going to be too late for them to do that, since Perks will come back up in 40, but still, that's good for ROCCAT. Get some gold back in their pockets.
I haven't seen that out of Perks in a little while. Way too aggressive without vision control. Goes over the wall into 3 members of ROCCAT. Gets caught out, locked down. Ashe arrow comes out. Everything hits him. And
just praising him, man. Caster Curse strikes again, but it does seem to happen. I mean, Perks said he needed to work on his mechanics. That's what he was focusing on now that he's kind of mastered being a better team player, but that was the rare miss this game. I mean, for 30 minutes, he's been almost flawless.
Well, I feel like that was a lot of decision-making. If we end up getting a replay of that, we'll see how many people Perks thought he was jumping into, but haven't seen it in a little while. That was the kind of thing that Perks was trying to get out of his game, was those mistakes just ended up costing G2. Did a couple of them in Summer Split that nearly had a massive impact on G2 standings. But as we crest 33 minutes, Trick opting for the Dragon. First one for G2 in this game.
Yeah, easy peasy take when you're this high a level, so they'll equalize on Cloud Drakes, but that will be the last elemental available in this game. The next one to come up will, of course, be the big boss, but Baron is a much more tasty target for now.
Not an easy target, though.
No, especially not for ROCCAT. G2 might be able to brute force this one down, but ROCCAT are not going to give him a free pass. Look at all the vision they've invested in on that side of the map.
I don't think G2 want or need to force it down and just try and rush it. They're in such a good position that basically playing the vision game, denying any kind of vision around the entrance to ROCCAT and then trying to just bait them down and pick them off. Perks will end up looking to try and catch someone as they're going between lanes. That's the kind of play that they want. You can see G2 are just going to do their diligence and check through.
They have to do this. Oh! Misfire. They do separate. Perks, but he dodges, and they have got no cooldowns left. Maxlor, Betsy, they might be caught. Perks coming in the backside. Expect is coming in, but Maxlor, he's already way too down, and they throw down the red carpet. Redemption comes just a smidgen too late. Yarnan's getting burned through, and Trick is having a game. Betsy, Wadid, they both managed to escape, but it is open Baron season right now for G2 Esports. And Betsy might not get out alive. Perks comes around the side, distorts into the Shadow Orb, and it is 3 members down. G2 Esports looking to take out the Baron.
Perks dodges the damage, doesn't cross through the minefield, ends up picking up another kill, 6-1 and 7. And G2, all they needed was information on where just a handful of ROCCAT were. And now Faxi flashes the bush.
He's going back in onto Trick. Hey, that was a nice little maneuver, but it's not going to be enough, unfortunately. One more shot would take him out. The tongue lash, and Sven with an unstoppable kill at 35 minutes knocks him down.
And G2, they had the good positioning on the fight. ROCCAT were trying to flee back up the ramp, and in came Expect from the side. Didn't cross the equalizer over the fighting ground. Instead, cuts off the escape. Kianan tried to run away through it, ends up losing his life for it, and G2 are in a really strong position. 6-1 and 7, 5-0-4 for Perks and Sven.
The ROCCAT die hard here. They're looking to make a play, but it is another equalizer. Maxlor, hey, you can see what he just melted right there. A double kill for Sven as he picks off Maxlor. Valiant attempt, but no health bars dropped on the side of G2.
Betsy tries to slow him down with a Weaver's Wall.
May
catch Perks.
Perks is still hanging tough, though. I mean, Betsy really tried for the big one, but they've got a redemption coming in, and they can just keep on marching. Only Betsy to offer any resistance. Foxy is going to come right back up, but their base is in shambles now. Baron-empowered minions, the first inhibitor of the game taken. We're 36 minutes on the clock. G2 know to not push their luck here as everyone's coming back up. They can back, they can buy, because they are in full control.
Slow and steady end to this game for G2. 13,000 gold is the lead right now, and this is what that lead ends up looking like, because look, ROCCAT tried to go aggressive, didn't catch them with the roots, didn't catch them with either ult. And then the fight turns around. Expect is going to cut off the escape path here. You watch how Kianan really desperately trying to get out, but he has to run part of the length, flashes right into Trick. And that's the kill to turn around for Baron. G2 looking so comfortable outside of the first 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah, big damage on their side, and unfortunate for ROCCAT that they couldn't lock up a single member of G2. Might have tipped the scales a little bit more in their favor, but you are looking down the barrel of a really huge deficit. And it just keeps getting worse. 7 towers to 3. They've got a dead inhibitor on top they're going to have to watch for. G2 Esports incredibly comfortable, still ticking away on this Baron buff. And they're looking to march down bottom, pinging out ROCCAT everywhere they go. And this trick just ain't going to work too many times. Mithy's just able to step up and throw a ward down. They don't have to worry too much, especially as tanky as he is.
And you know, we said there'd be no real way of Sven dying in the laning phase. Well, look at his itemization. He's even trying to make sure that he doesn't die outside of it. Has himself Edge of Night as well.
He's been playing like an assassin, so why not?
Between the Tom Kench, the heal, Edge of Night, Flash, you name it, he's got it to get himself out of a tricky situation. Yet to die in this game, as is Mithy. Combined 7-0-16 for the bottom lane of G2. On the other side, 3-8-2. ROCCAT has not quite been such a successful game. For the first
is coming, but it's a 4v5 right now, and they got the catch off onto Mithy, but they throw the equalizer down. Expect he heals up for way so much there as Maxlor is gone down. They look for Trick, but Perks coming around the backside. Sven opens up the curtains, and now ROCCAT, they're gonna make him disappear. How about that for a magic trick? What an ace! 38 minutes, and G2, it's gonna be Nexus.
G2 are gonna end this game. It was with an attempted pick onto Sven. But we just talked about how safe he was going to be. Everything was there to keep him alive, and G2 are going to take game 1.
Making it look easy, no sweat required. 38.5 minutes. G2 are going to knock down the Nexus and take a game number 1 over ROCCAT.
And you can update that score to 8-0-24 for the bot lane of G2. That is an impressive combined scoreline.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And laning phase, well, for all 3 lanes, to be honest, was pretty darn quiet. Talk about Trick trying to get involved, and they did a great job on ROCCAT's side of shutting him down early, and maybe not denying him so much farm, but denying him from farming champions for sure. But getting caught a couple times and playing right into G2's hands was all it took.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll hear Crepo and Dracos. Nearly
You
went by a
almost said
different name.
Sifa.
Yeah, nearly went by a
Still
different
getting
name.
used to that.
I want to hear if they're going to talk a little bit more about the start from ROCCAT, because I actually think it was a lot better than people give ROCCAT credit for. I like the start. It showed that they actually have a little bit of a playbook to start out games, which maybe against a team that isn't G2 or the strength of G2 may very well have given themselves the lead. Keep in mind, they were 2K up at one point.
Yeah.
It was a good start out of ROCCAT, but you can't take bad fights against a team like G2. They will turn it around and crush
against
you.
the double TP. I mean, obviously it's a mistake, but the fact that they not only managed to get a slim lead in the early game and make very, very few mistakes in the laning phase, for a team that has just come together, that's priority is playing together as a team, I mean, that is a very admirable performance, and you have got to not worry too much when you're looking at what they've got on the plate next, but they've still got another game to play. At least G2 have taken one in this best of 3 over ROCCAT, so we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a closer look at how it all went down.
And stress to your point, not just about the start of ROCCAT, but Crepo wanted to take a deeper dive into the compositions and specifically how the comp of G2, if I am correct, doesn't look that complicated, but it is actually quite hard to play it out correctly.
Yeah, it's just both these teams have a different goal in mind with their compositions, and there's this really cool dichotomy between both of them where you have like the map movements from ROCCAT in the 1, and then they will kind of want to just roam and create like the bot lane party. This is where it happens ideally. This is all based on the fundamentals of what they call lane priority. It means Betsy's Talia will always push in LeBlanc early game, and then the Ashe Zyra lane will always have priority over bottom lane. What this means is you have 2 pushing lanes, which allow your jungler to invade in between early, and then obviously roam towards the Ashe. So ROCCAT always want to push in mid, roam towards the Ashe, and then teleport. The problem is, they're trying to do this now in the second phase, but it's kind of thwarted by G2, and now this is where G2's composition is kind of highlighted, is that they want to make picks with teleports, with the rapid movement of a LeBlanc, and with the Tahm Kench ultimate. So they kind of want to surprise ROCCAT every time while they're in the setup, and this is what happened here. This was following a roam top from Betsy that kind of failed, or as it was being set up. G2 immediately pulled the trigger on double teleport deep wards that were put in lane, then they roam back to mid lane, and then they forced a good team fight using the Rumble ulti as an engage here. So it really highlighted that they're playing different styles, and once G2 ever gets ahead, they will just keep picking off their opponents over and over.
Yeah, and G2 opted for something a little bit more difficult here, but it pays off dividends as we move forward in the game. And the big thing here is for ROCCAT as a young team, it makes a lot of sense to me that this kind of did not work out in their favor, because their comp is designed to win the early game. Their comp should have a lead, but if you're a younger team, you're very rarely comfortable playing against double teleport, comfortable playing against that Tahm Kench global mobility.
Just a question as a, obviously someone who's not a Diamond Challenger player. I look at that clip and you see Mithy gets away with a sliver of health, and Mithy is an amazing player. But could you not argue that that was a right decision by ROCCAT in some case, because they could have gotten one more crit and killed the Tahm Kench in that? Or is that also just very calculated from G2?
I mean, not everything G2 does is super calculated, but the most calculated movement or part of that replay from G2 was actually the 2 wards that were in place for teleport. Like, they don't magically appear there.
Yeah.
That's because once the bot lane turret was taken, G2 were the first ones to rotate top because they knew ROCCAT was going to do that, to do the same movement again. ROCCAT's plan right there was, okay, Ashe Zyra push top, Betsy push mid, Maxor move in between for vision. Let's move everybody to the top lane and dive the turret. Now G2 say, well, we know you're going to do that. You just highlighted your comp. We're going to slide 2 deep wards behind you in the top lane. So when you're doing that, surprise, LeBlanc's there faster with teleport. Tahm Kench can ulti in from anywhere, and our top laner is ready to teleport as well. And suddenly, ROCCAT have to react, and they weren't ready to deal with these teleports.
And for me, the issue is ROCCAT are like learning the textbook right now. G2 have read the textbook. So it's like, oh, you're on chapter 2. It's like, well, we'll just do this against you. Like, we've seen this before. This is standard play. And when G2, yes, it's harder for them to get going with this composition, but once they see it, it's so easy for them to respond because they've seen this before. They've done this before. This is standard League of Legends.
And especially because ROCCAT know kind of what their win condition is and how they have to play, but the second you get screwed by a Tahm Kench ultimate that you forgot existed, you're going to get affected. So the next time you want to enter that brush that you're sure nobody can catch you here, you're going to be a little more hesitant, and then you lose the push. And once these lanes are no longer pushing in mid and top lane, you jungler can't move in between. You can't get the vision, you can't rotate to a turret, and you're getting picked off left and right, and that's why it snowballed so quickly once G2 was ahead.
And I asked you guys in the short break, will ROCCAT come back in this game? You guys said no. We did see some moves, one move at Baron. They tried some things, but it just didn't come together.
There was a couple small issues here on the execution as we get into the replay, both mechanically and in terms of setup. We saw them waste a lot of time after they had vision priority. They also didn't pressure out the mid lane. And as you look at it now, I mean, mostly focus on the execution here when you look at the replay, because the chaining of CC is bad. You shouldn't lead with your slowest skill shot, which is the Zyra snare. You should be leading with Ashe Arrow. You should be leading with some of the tools that you have available. Instead, Ash Arrow is used as follow-up, and it's all too easy for G2 to break apart this team fight once all those major cooldowns are burned, because the only way you can stop anyone from getting into your backline is the Ash Arrow, is the Zyra ult. If you use these tools aggressively and you fail, your whole team composition just falls apart, and they're already at a deficit.
Yeah, they had the one shot right there. Again, this play came to be because Perks got picked off in the mid, and they gave a bit of a reprieve in terms of pressure, which allowed ROCCAT to push out mid, go for the vision on Baron, but they made the mistake of not pushing out mid again for more kind of vision pressure. As a team, they 4-man went to Wolves. Like they had a 4-man tag team clearing the Wolf camp. Probably because somebody's saying, I need 200 gold to base. But then they realized, oh no, we can't base, because if we base, we're going to give a Baron. So they're like, panic, 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 make a brush bait. Clearly wasn't thought out, wasn't communicated, because Zyra was leading with Snare when there was an arrow. So you can clearly see where the cracks are showing. But again, that's 30 minutes in the game. I like what ROCCAT did the first 10 minutes, maybe 15. They're moving forward, but it obviously shows that G2 is more experienced.
Yeah, and just to kind of close this out, once again, I feel like Stress brought up that ROCCAT played a clean early game, and we can't give them a little bit of credit for that, but their team was designed to win the early game. They should have pressure advantage, and I'm concerned that in a game where they don't pick or winning lanes in the early game, it may look even worse than this, so we really just need to see more from them at every stage.
All right, well, we'll see what happens and how they adjust for Game 2. We're going to take a quick break as the players prepare for that, but when we return, we will see if ROCCAT can fight back or if G2 can take it in a clean sweep. Don't go anywhere.
Noodle fight just turned deadly. Okay, so expect us hanging on. He's
Flash follows him all the way through, and first blood for the Maokai.
As Betsy is gonna get caught by the rest of the team. Maxlor has jumped in. Safeguard, not safe enough. Maxlor is burning and gone. And down goes Lenid. And just like that, 3 kills on the board for G2. 3 people down here, but there's a double teleport and in comes Trick and Ridley. It's never just one. And just like that, they're gonna burn through Maxlor. Nice.
Straight from Perks coming around the backside. Sven opens up the curtains, and now ROCCAT, they're gonna make him disappear. How about that for a magic trick? What an ace! 38 minutes, and G2, it's gonna be Nexus.